Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 600 on Tuesday, the 21st of October, 2024. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week we'll be seeing how busy the HR departments of the industry work. In new car news, we take a trip to Paris. And in points of interest, we ask if there's any curtain left to peek behind. But first, we have a smidgen of follow-up. And in a week of really not great news for Tesla, we start with the strike that is still a year on going on in Sweden because they will not issue a standard practice contract to the Swedish workers of the IF Metal Union. There's been solidarity across actually the whole of Scandinavia, it turns out.
Yeah, this is everywhere.
Where it's gone from postmen to dock workers, etc., and now is including the Vision Trade Union in Sweden, who will no longer service, repair, or run maintenance tasks on any of Tesla's supercharging stations. Just give them a contract. It's really easy.
I have no idea how they get the registration plates delivered, because that was one of the major challenges, wasn't it?
Yeah,
was that they were refusing to deliver post
yes.
to and from Tesla dealers.
The dock workers won't unload ships, so they're being unloaded in Europe and then put on the back of lorries and driven into Sweden rather than shipped across.
Yes, originally they were being unloaded in Norway, weren't they? And then the Norwegian unions went, nah. And then obviously the Danish and the Finnish ones have also gone, nah. They'll be putting them all on a ferry.
I have for once agreed with something that Tony Stark has said. He has previously called the situation insane. Yes, it is.
But
through your own making.
Well, yes, there's a lot of things that can go into that category, aren't there?
Oh, before I get too ranty about Tesla after a couple of weeks away, why don't you take us on to new news and back to the UK?
Headline in this Autocar story is that Stellantis is to make a correction to UK business to boost profits. The company chief has announced a big change in the next few weeks after months of threats to UK plants. None of that makes me feel very good.
No.
They still haven't actually said what the change is going to be. And this story is from 14th of October. Carlos Tavares is saying he'll be very specific very soon. Tavares has been super critical of the zero-emission mandate and all these kind of things, and just generally grumpy about the UK generally.
When he's taking time off from having to go to Italy.
Well, yes. Stellantis do seem to be spending most of their time arguing with governments.
Yes.
Which seems like a strange tactic for a motor manufacturer. Really.
I feel this whole, I'll let you know in a couple of weeks exactly what it is the last throw of the dice, where he can then go, well, I gave the government every opportunity to do something and help us out financially.
But the current UK government has other things to occupy it at the moment, and to be honest, it doesn't seem like cash handouts to the motor industry is high up on its list of priorities. I mean, for goodness sakes, it's getting rid of cash handouts for old people.
Yes. I'd be very surprised if that happened.
Yeah.
The government have increasingly talked about they are well aware of the infrastructure needs for the EV uptake, but they do not mention helping people buy a new bit of metal.
Yes, but we both think that is a foolish idea unless it is very much focused at the affordable end of the market. Per that lease scheme in France that we talked about a few months ago.
Yep, absolutely on board with that.
There's a comment here that says that the Stellantis UK boss, Maria Grazia Divino, warned that the company could stop building cars here if the government's electrification initiatives created a hostile trading environment. Well, speaking of Maria Grazia Divino, it turns out that, Andrew, she's going to be here less time than Stellantis building cars.
Yes, we have, and it was announced, it's a bit of a shock move, this, actually, late last week, that she has, and I'm quoting here from autoretail.co.uk, decided to leave the company for other interests with immediate effects, according to the manufacturer. She's going to be replaced by Ulrich Druss, who we only talked about very recently, been appointed as the head of Peugeot UK. He's now going to take over all the operations for Stellantis. How long that is, if we bear in mind what was said in the previous article and the previous news story. Who knows?
I get this funny feeling it's not the last time her name's going to be mentioned on this podcast.
No, but Stellantis are really churning through UK
Everything.
people. And because part of the whole, what they're going to, they're looking at their whole business is in Europe and America as well, because they're struggling, and they're looking at staff, they're looking at brands and everything. It's a very grim time for Stellantis, basically.
Right. The thing is that there's a couple of things. So previously, UK was always a prime role. In any French or Italian company, the being based in or around London is always a prime role. That is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, obviously, Brexit makes that more difficult.
Yeah.
Similarly, US roles, always a prime thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Again, difficult to go back and forth, though. That one there, they have to be a bit quicker on it. But what it also means is that because those are prime roles and prime look will make you head of the UK, will make you this.
Yeah.
Then very often, if people get to there, find it's not quite what they wanted, then they're the good people that will be stepping off to join something somewhere else. And I think that actually that possibly has a factor in it, as opposed to just, it's trouble getting Ellesmere Port to make Astra Estates properly or something.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain amount of the people who end up in these roles tend to be the people who then maybe want to go on further or get headhunted by others.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm not saying it's entirely down to Stellantis. For more on Alan's analysis of the job market.
Well, before you do that, would you like to talk about the latest thing from the Financial Conduct Authority?
Yes, it is Beleaguered Motor Manufacturer Week here on the Motoring Podcast. This we're going to talk about self-inflicted beleaguered motoring manufacturer. This time, Volkswagen Finance did not treat customers in distress in a fair manner, according to the Financial Conduct Authority, and that has just cost them £27 million in payouts, between a £5.4 million fine and payouts to the needs of over 110,000 customers who at some point have struggled to make payments. Volkswagen Finance failed to properly assess and support their needs, discuss changing payment terms, all of these kind of things. They've been caught, they've been given a fair old slap, a fine, and made to pay out compensation to people as well.
Yeah, they were facing a £7 million fine, but they cooperated with the investigation and enabled it to be completed within 13 months as opposed to typically 42 months, which meant that they got a 30% discount on the fine.
Do you collect them up and collect points for them?
So it's not the stars you want to keep, though, is it really?
No, not really. Not at all.
What they were saying, what the FCA said made it all worse was that Volkswagen Finance relied on automated and templated communications, which did not take into account the specific needs of individual customers, as is quoted from an AM Online article here. Can we not learn?
No, because it's a new bunch of little tiddly consultants who'll come in and slap out the same stuff as they slapped out for, they've done it in America, right? And so then what they'll do is go, it's just the same, and slap it out in the UK without realizing that all the rules are different.
Yeah, so then do you go back to those consultants as a company and then go, right, you set us up with this?
Nah, because they've all moved on somewhere else.
However, well, yeah, you just take the company, don't
you? There's nobody around. There was nobody around who worked on that project. Let's change the subject.
Okay, then. I'll take us to JLR. And JLR have decided that they are going to enhance their retail operations with a new sales chief. They have appointed Angela Shepherd. She is the new sales director, and she is going to help with the retail transformation that is underway and actually continue as JLR moves into the luxury end of the market from where they were previously, which is premium.
I don't really know what to say to this, because this is...
Well, I suggest everyone actually click through on this article, because there's some fantastic word salad quotes in here.
It's fantastic.
They are superb, and I'm not going to read them out.
At one point, they used the word symbiotic, people.
Yes.
Nobody uses the word symbiotic.
So come on. Do click this AM Online article. It feels like it's Reach guilt in going postal when he's trying to counter the fact that the post office has come back into fashion and is doing all right. So he's just coming out with complete word salad that doesn't mean anything.
There's a lot of that in this, but it is JLR, so there is a lot of word salad anyway.
I'm just hoping all these moves they're making, because there's been other appointments for other parts to do with transformation and things like that we aren't covering. And I just hope that these are actually good appointments and they make a positive and helpful contribution to the company. Because much as we put the boot in, and again, if you're not a regular listener, we put the boot in a lot to JLR because there's lots of stories about them where you think why or what or how.
They do such silly things.
But it's because we want them to do well, and we think they can do well. And we know people who work there that are good. The individuals are very good. And we just hope that the company can get out of its own way and allow that to be seen.
Well, it's the management can get out of the competent people's way and just let them do their job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking of management getting out of the way, Alan.
Yes. Well, Volvo have moved its deputy CEO, Bjorn Anval, out of the way with an organizational change. And the idea is that it's... I've got to read this. Sorry. This is from Electrive. Has announced an organizational change to its top management to increase speed and reduce complexity. Get rid of them.
That's how I read that.
Change of those, yes, is CCO and Deputy CEO Bjorn Anwal, who is stepping down. That is basically, or it says he's taking his next step outside of Volvo cars.
Yes, at some point, because there's no timeline.
Yes, and it also says that his next steps remain under wraps. So I'm inclined to believe that he's not really sure what those are, other than spend a few months skiing with the severance package whilst he pokes around at what he might want to do instead. There are a number of other changes, but frankly, I don't fancy taking a run-up at the pronouncing everybody's names.
No, there will be a link to an Electrive article in the show notes as ever. But
we are thinking, by the way, of opening a book on how much longer Jim Rowan, the CEO, hangs around.
Yes, because I was about to start saying there that Volvo have had a tricky time recently. The 2024 has not been a good year for them, has it?
No. There's an idea, by the way. Instead of, all these sports betting sites and things that are everywhere, I don't know how much they are. We should open one which takes bets on length of time senior European car industry executives remain in place. Every time they're shifted.
That's going to be really interesting with German ones coming up. Especially
if they stay in Volkswagen, it doesn't count. What if they're middle-aged male and grey-haired and they've moved internally within Volkswagen? I'm sorry, it's the same person.
Okay, continuing the HR episode of the Motoring Podcast News Show, we move on to Maserati, and they have appointed a new UK boss to replace Peter Charters. Mariangelo Del Vecchio is going to oversee the operations in the UK and Scandinavia. I didn't realise that the two were put together. But I suppose it makes sense from not within the EU market, regulatory point of view. So from that point of view, I could see that. She's going to take over from Charters with immediate effect and has worked in the international automotive industry with the likes of BMW, Iveco for more than 20 years. I don't know whether she's just getting the place ready for selling or what. Well,
she said last year that Maserati dealers should expect to see a change in fortunes this year, which sounds like it came out of a cookie which may well have been consumed with rumoured new owners.
Yes. It does mention at the bottom of this article about the Maserati Gran Turismo, which I managed to have a quick drive at SMMT North. And, oh dear, I did say to them, if they need someone to look after it for 6 months or so to get, really get under the skin of it and truly understand it, I'd be happy. What a noise that thing made. Oh, that was quite special on a very brief drive on, not quick roads because the speed limits were not high around where we were, but it was very nice.
Good looking things.
It was in a gorgeous colour as well. Right, I think, Alan, you have the last HR-dependent article
We really should probably explain why it's so HR dependent. So HR dependent because of the Paris Motor Show.
Yes.
So everybody was making all their shuffles around right before the motor show, whilst at the same time focusing only on the stuff they were going to reveal at the motor show. Outside of extremely dull news about speed limits changing and stuff that we just can't be bothered with at the minute, then frankly, all of these people shuffling around was the majority of the news that wasn't new car news.
And we did have to catch up on a few of these appointments as well. And
we did. I culled a couple because it's too difficult when you're on your own.
Yeah. But anyway, to take us to Morgan in another surprise move.
Yes, Morgan CEO Massimo Fumarola has stepped down for personal reasons after 3 years, and he's being replaced by its chief technical officer, Matthew Hull. They've both worked together very closely, but Hull joined Morgan 3 years ago to help the British sports car maker apply the latest technology and new engineering techniques, according to this Autocar article.
And I think we have to say in those 3 years, they've done a cracking job of being prominent.
They've done a lot of good stuff.
And they've brought out some really good-looking cars. I mean, the Midsummer has done really well. They've sold 2 batches of 50 of those, of which the first batches are due to start being delivered now. And I don't think anyone had anything remotely negative to say about the Midsummer, and I think it was brilliant that they worked with someone like Pininfarina with it.
Yeah. It seems to have been the last few years under Fumarola seems to have been pretty successful for Morgan. I hope that this is, I hope whatever personal reason it is resolves itself. But it doesn't seem to be, a cover for actually wasn't very good at his job, because it seems that he was.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
from an outsider point of view.
An ousting, does it?
No,
not an ousting. But for as much as you say, as outsiders, for as much as we can see and read between the lines.
When we say things like that, then we get a whole bunch of messages on the side telling us what the actual reasons were quite often. But no, I hope so, because Morgan seems to be doing well, and I'm really pleased by that, because if Morgan is doing well, it makes me happy.
Right, I will finish off the first part of the show by taking us to the US and unfortunately having to cover Tesla again. And unfortunately having to cover dreadful journalism by people who talk about self-driving systems and then later on say that they are driver assistance systems and can't tell the difference. Never mind, BBC News. Maybe you'll do better if you try harder.
Well, technology correspondent, what do you expect?
Quite. But the National Highways Traffic Safety Administration has started an investigation into the full self-driving beta software, which, as we know, is a level 2 driver assistance system that has been sold for anything between $8,000 and $10,000 extra by Tesla to a select number of special customers, because apparently there have been crashes that have involved reduced roadway visibility, such as fog or sun glare.
Things that you never get in California, by the way. Ever, you never ever get fog around San Francisco, and you never get sun in California.
No,
there isn't a song about that.
No, but it turns out that if you rely purely on a vision-based system, there might be some limitations to that. If only experts had been saying this for well over a decade. Where have they been?
It's shocking.
It's just ridiculous. What it does to me is it's 2 things. One, shows the fallacy of the way that this has been engineered and pursued. But 2, how the US think safety is way down on the list of priorities. Because if you're doing this now,
safety third.
If you're lucky, cars they're starting to investigate are from 2016. And we're at the back end of 2024. Just come on, everybody do better.
It is incredibly lame. It really is. I hate being anywhere near a Tesla in traffic.
Yeah.
Just never know if somebody's actually paying attention or what it's going to do or any of these things. I actually actively try and stay as far away from Teslas as I can.
Wise.
Right, end of rant for the moment.
End of the first part as well.
Yes, end of the first part as well. We're going to do something slightly different for Guilt Minute this week, because all round, very nice chap, and also coincidentally motoring journalist Alex Robbins is raising money for a charity that we try and help out and support every now and again, Mission Motorsport. here's what Alex says about the charity from the Just Giving page that we'll get to in just a little bit. So, several years ago, when I first started doing this job, I heard about a charity called Mission Motorsport. The aim of the charity is spelled out in the motto, race, retrain, recover. Put simply, Mission Motorsport uses the healing power of motorsport as a way to help rehabilitate veterans who've been affected by their service in our armed forces. Through teamwork, competition, and personal validation, Mission Motorsport is building a community of like-minded people who come together to support each other, whether they've done a day or decades of service, enabling veterans to retrain and rebuild when they suffer life-changing injuries, be they mental or physical, while defending our country. What's Alex doing about that? Well, he's quite simply only walking from the Mission Motorsport headquarters near Wantage in Oxfordshire up to the Anglesey Circuit in Anglesey. Gosh, that's a surprise, that, isn't it? In time for the Race of Remembrance. It's about 250 miles. He's doing it over 3 weeks, and he's already on his way. There will be a link to his Just Giving page in the show notes where you can find out even more, and you can donate from there as well. As I say, linked in the show notes. Well done, Alex. Good luck.
Yep, absolutely.
Happy
Great
plodding,
charity,
etc.
Great person. Absolutely mad idea and a way to raise money.
Yeah, absolutely. He's at £4,000 of his £5,000 target, by the way. If you can, a couple of quid his way would be, or Mission Motorsport's way would be appreciated.
Okay. Second part of the show, new car news.
Yes, new car news. Yeah, I didn't cover the Paris Motor Show last week, partly because it was just starting to happen and just, time on my own. And to be honest, running through a list of new cars on your own with nobody to disagree with you about them is very dull for both the person doing the running through and the people listening at the other end.
Yes. We've linked to an article from Autocar where they round up how they felt the show went, which is generally quite positive, reading their introduction to it. But I want to get us on to the cars themselves. And what they have done is they have picked the best new cars and concepts at the 2024 Paris Motor Show. And they start off with, Stellantis were there in force. After we've just panned them in the first part of the show, they were there in force to show that they do have cars, they do have vehicles, they've got some new and potentially interesting ones, depending on your perspective on these things.
2 years ago, the Paris Motor Show was a bit of a washout. It was not very successful. Not many companies showed up to it because I think people were still not really sure what was happening with motor shows. Of course, this is Renault and Stellantis' home show. And then you can bet that the rumour mills will have been going that if one was going to be showing loads of stuff, the other one had to be showing loads of stuff as well. As a result, there was loads and loads of stuff to show, plus some other things from outside of the French groups.
Yep.
Where do we begin? Citroën Ami. Am I allowed to start with Citroën Ami?
I think Citroën had a poor show because one of the highlights is that they've refreshed the look of a quadricycle.
Yes, but look at the Ami Buggy Vision. It's so cool, Andrew. It's got little light bars on the top and chunky tyres and wheel arch extensions. Yeah, Citroën didn't really bring their A game, did they?
No.
Well, they're showing off the DS concept and stuff.
One of the other things they talked about was how they've removed the manual gearbox from the C4.
Yeah, all right. Okay, it was a pretty dull game from Citroën.
And then they brought out the C5 Aircross concept, which I was like, what? That looks a mess. That we were expecting something to carry on the vibe of Ollie, and this doesn't.
Do you know what's really tricky here? Is that all of the French vehicles, all Stellantis and Renault vehicles, all look the same at the moment. So it's very difficult clicking through the thumbnails here to actually find stuff.
I wonder if anybody on this show has mentioned anything about that previously.
Is that a Peugeot or is that a Renault? I don't know. They all look the same. They've all got the same styling director. They all look the same. Okay, so shall we move on a little bit then?
Yeah, I think Citroën had a very whelming. I was whelmed with everything they did.
Yes. I do like the little buggy, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm not objecting to the Ami, but I think if that's one of your major attractions, then you're struggling.
Yeah, I think you're right. Alpine looks in danger of doing a Lotus to itself.
Well, we can start with £280,000 for their run-out two-seater sports car, it's a very good two-seater sports car. At 50 grand.
But it's still not, but I don't think it's a 200 and whatever, £1,000 very good sports car. No.
Yeah. And then they they showed off the A390 Beta, which is an SUV, which really hammers home Alan's point of they're doing a Lotus, because one, it looks a mess, and two, they talked a lot about how they are engineering it to feel light. And you just, at some point, someone has to stop everybody and go, hang on, if you're doing so much engineering, do you not understand how compromised it is?
The trouble is that if it looks so big and lardy, you're never going to get the people in behind the steering wheel to work out how light it feels. You've got to aesthetically make that tie up, and I don't think that does.
I don't see how that represents anything that Alpine have brought out before.
No.
So again,
no,
damp squib.
Yeah. Renault Twingo?
Yes, good.
Yeah. It's not next in the list here. Renault 4?
Now that looked like it came off the Stellantis.
It does a bit. The trouble is that the proportions of the original Renault 4 don't really translate into a modern car because it's so narrow and so tall and so gawky looking. It's like there's never been a good 2CV update because the proportions of the 2CV is very long, it's very tall, it's very skinny, it's got ridiculously big wheels for its size and time. Just don't, separate headlamps. They just don't translate well into modern car styling at all.
The problem for the 4 is that they did so well with the 5.
Yeah. If it had been the 4 and then the 5, then everybody would have gone, oh, that's great. And then they go, that's even better.
You've listened to feedback and you've done it more so. And Renault in this show have done here we are refreshing our back catalogue. We are using our back catalogue to make things exciting, which they've since said we're cutting that off now. We're only going for the future.
But new styling director has come in and gone, no, we're not doing any of the back catalogue stuff anymore.
Yeah.
We're not doing, despite the fact that that's been quite popular, we're not doing that because I'm a new broom and therefore anything that went before is wrong, because that's what happens when new people come in.
That is a big danger, and we're going to have to watch Renault because I wonder whether they're going to blow it by doing that.
Yeah.
We have yet to see how the 5 is received by the general public. I mean, it's easy for us nerds to go, oh God, that looks really interesting and exciting. I'd love to try that. But what does, Joe Blogs on the street think? Does that make them actually go in? Like the Mini made people go and buy it when it was refreshed. I feel that the 5 may do something similar, but I can't see the 4
very borderline. No. It just will buy the 4
like
because
an SUV.
We'll buy the 4 because it's quite hard to get kid seats into the back of the 5.
You really have to want a Renault, though.
Yeah, but they're there in the same showroom, and it's easy. Maybe. Anyway, Dacia Bigster.
I like that. Found something I like.
I know. Well, I had to. It was intentionally chosen for that purpose.
I like how it looks a bit chunky. It looks a bit more grown up. The problem Dacia have got is they are obviously doing what Skoda did, and you're moving away from the roots of very affordable motoring. And with that, more luxuries are added. And I know Dacia are very conscious of this, and they're trying not to overdo it by suddenly flooding the cabin with technology and all this sort of stuff.
I think they're more conscious than Skoda was.
Yeah, because I think we talked about a German group that interferes with its individual brands far too much.
Yeah, this is very true.
But I also think Dacia and Hyundai are going to have a fight out of who's allowed to do the more pixelated looking graphics on their cars.
I know, especially around headlamps. We spoke about Skoda before. What about the L-Rock? What about the L-Rock, said everyone. Yep, that's about right. I don't know, anything else that jumped out at you?
Well, Leap Motor were there. And Leap Motor is the Chinese brand that Stellantis have bought into to bring more affordable electric vehicles over to Europe and potentially the UK, because they're going to bring the, what is it? The
little smirky one.
Yeah, that looks a bit odd.
The
very much a city car is how it's being aimed.
It's not the B10. The B10 is the bigger one.
Yeah, that's an SUV
it must be a number
which
less than 10.
Been designed when someone's gone to AI and said, please design me an SUV that's slightly rounded at the edges like everyone else is doing at the moment. But it's inoffensive. Yeah. It's inoffensive.
It's inoffensive if it's got a decent range. If the finance deal is good and the warranty's good, then it will find private buyers.
Yep.
Oh, and priced below 30,000.
If the Stellantis group of dealer and repair centres can deal with it, then you don't need to worry about that side of things. Yeah. One thing that did crop out or did stand out to me was people surprised that Renault are not going to make the 17 resto mod thing.
That was never going to happen.
No,
to me, it was never going to happen.
Listeners to the show know it was never going to happen because they heard us discuss it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's cool. It's like the Renault 5 one that they did. It's like the other ones. It was never destined for production. But it was a really cool idea. I'm really pleased they did, as with all of the other things that have come in this Renault by insert designer's name here, Philippe Starck, whoever. It's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
And it's really nicely executed. And I hope it doesn't just sit in a museum under a plastic sheet for the next 20 years. It would be cool to see it going out and about. But with the iterations of the new design, bigwig, then we'll see. But I would really like it to appear at car shows and all sorts of stuff because I think it's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. But my sort of overall feeling from the Paris Motor Show is it got a lot of positive press, I think mainly because there were cars there. And it was in a building that made it feel busy. Whether or not it really was, who knows? But it felt busy like it should have done, like a motor show should have done to the journalists.
Yeah,
and that seemed to be where it came out as all positive. But car-wise, it was all right.
I think that's an important point, by the way, is that the fact it was really a salon auto. It was a motor show. It wasn't pretending to be a mobility show with a little bit of cars in the corner. There was nothing silly like that. The president turned up, all these kinds of things. And it felt like a proper motor show should feel. Now, what a journalist says a proper motor show should feel like, I think is very different from what the public feel that a motor show should feel like. And I know myself, there are significant differences between press days and public days. For example, many of the press pictures here, there are new cars, there is nothing around them. But by the public days, there will be tensor barriers and there'll be all sorts of things. I mean, at least the Leap Motor one shows some genuine tensor barriers already in place. It would be interesting to know what the public days felt like. Because I know that in the past, people have said, it's a rather flat Geneva Motor Show this year and it's not that much. And then you turn up and there's millions of people trying their kids for size in the back of Volkswagens and you think, somebody somewhere is doing something right. I'm not sure it's the journalists.
No. Again, it's understanding, like you've repeatedly said, understanding who and what a motor show is really for.
Yeah.
And it's generally not, especially not today, and I think this is where the whole motor shows are dying is coming from. It's not for journalists because you can get hold of these people at any time.
Yeah.
Or the car companies themselves go, we're going to be here. We're going to do this online thing at this time. So
why not come to Barcelona? Yeah.
So now you can speak to us because we want to control the message.
Absolutely. And when there's...
And that's not a bad thing, by the way. I'm not criticizing that car companies do that, and that's journalist view, but they just need to open their eyes a bit more.
Better for the car companies because they're not competing with like 6 other launches at exactly the same time and all of these kind of things. You understand exactly why they do it, and it means that the journalists also get a clear view of everything and hopefully a little bit of time to think about stuff before writing it, rather than launching it for the clicks within 30 seconds, although, which is a feature very much of their management, by the way, rather than what the journalists actually want to be doing.
Yep.
I think lots gets lost in the traditional motor show thing for a journalist, for a motor company, but for real people to go out and be able to look around cars and get a feel for what they like and what they don't like in a low stress atmosphere. Doesn't always feel like it, but there's not going to be someone, oh no, we're not going to sell you that one. Oh no, this isn't the trim that we're, we don't have those for 6 months. Maybe you should buy this one, which isn't selling as well instead, where there's none of that salesman pressure. Motor shows are so important for that. I went to one down in Rhode Island last spring, sometime earlier this year, I think. It was great. I would never go in and wander around a dealership here in the US because you're barely out of your car and not yet in the door of the dealership, and somebody's pounced on you to try to drive you towards a deal, drive you towards a salesman, or to try and scope out what it is you're looking for, and you can't just go look at something. Really important to just be able to wander around and go, oh, that's what one of these looks like in real life, and oh, I like the flicky switch on this pickup truck, and all the other stuff that I like to do. That's where motor shows are important for customers, but that has no bearing on journalists or, in the first instance, manufacturer press offices.
Yep.
End of rant.
End of new car news as well. We move into points of interest. And this from Haggerty. And a friend of the show, Masaratio Licata, has written about the Tesla We Robot presentation. I think everybody's really glad, including Alan, that I wasn't available last week to discuss this, because it was...
I chose not to discuss it because my language can be relatively choice, and here all we need to do is say, and of course for more than read Matteo's article.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on what was shown, what can be inferred from what was shown, and it's, well, anyone...
None of it's ready, it's all half-baked, and it's just...
I mean, they've painted the sidewalls of the tyres, for crying out loud, to make the wheels look bigger.
You can imagine that. I bet there were the big discs in the middle, and then a senior manager came along and said, no, in a faintly South African, mostly drug-addled accent, saying, no, I need those to be bigger. And everyone went, but it's too late. No, bigger, just make them bigger. A whole bunch of people stood around and went, what can we do? Do we have time to make those wheel trims bigger? No. Okay, what have we got? Have we got a can of paint? Paraphrase slightly, I'll bet that's what it was. Can you imagine if they'd made them bigger and it was driving along and one of them had flown off? When I say driving, I mean being remote controlled by somebody standing at the side of by the person at the background on the movie set.
Yes.
And yeah. And
they can't even make the smoke and mirrors work well.
And they use genuine smoke as well to try and obscure it.
Yeah.
Quite special.
So there is a link.
I could go on about this one for a long time.
There is a link to this article in the show notes as ever, and I will also include a link to the latest Looking Out podcast episode. They're back after a break, and they do discuss this, and Drew Smith really gets to the nub of what certainly we've been saying off air to each other, Alan, which is that Tesla isn't a serious car company anymore.
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
We've been saying that for quite some time. I don't think anyone can say anything other than that since Cluster Truck TM, since that was revealed and announced and then started to be sold to people. He is not fulfilling what the shareholders want.
And the thing is, they could be. Well, it depends which shareholders.
Well, the ones who want a lot of money back, please.
Yeah. They absolutely could be. If someone had just cashed out and cleared off and left it to the adults, they could be so darned good. And I think that's what annoys me most.
It frustrates me the most about them.
So the Model S is a seminal vehicle. Model S, one of the most important vehicles of the 21st century so far.
Have you then listened to Looking Out? Because that's exactly what Joe Simpson said.
Oh.
Exactly that. Precisely that. High five between Alan and Joe.
Oops. I haven't yet. I would love to meet up with the Looking Out guys at some point, because I have this funny feeling we might get on depressingly well.
Yes, I think we will.
Right. What's next? Oh, yes. List of the week is next. I'm so distracted by Tesla. The secret Volkswagens that were never sold. I hate AI. One of the reasons I hate AI is because it's killed off the listicle, or at least a good listicle. This week says it's definitely a passable and different listicle, though, which is a relief. And it is vehicles that Volkswagen prototyped, possibly even got very close to production, but then decided to pull. I personally am disappointed that the Futura concept is not in there. The Futura concept being the one that previewed direct injection petrol engines and also self-parking, if you remember it from Tomorrow's World.
Alan, you don't need to say that again, but with more adenoid.
Just choose a Volkswagen, Andrew.
Disappointed.
Upset, let down, and disappointed. Andrew, pick yourself a Volkswagen.
I am going to pick, for those following at home, slide 11, the Plattenwagen, which is essentially a Beetle chassis in which they've made a flatbed with a tiny cab sitting out the back, just basically to carry stuff. And I think it's such a brilliant idea of using what you have to do a multiple number of different tasks.
It's worth saying that they were sort of fudged together in the factory for use in the factory.
Yeah.
Probably from sort of slight reject parts.
It says rudimentary pickups, and it really is, but you could see that working so well they started in 1946 and they were still using them up to 73. You can see how it did a great job for them.
Yep.
And I love that sort of stuff.
Very
Go
cool.
on then. We've got 21 slides, so you're allowed a choice.
Okay. I like the 1987 T3 Magma. The Volkswagen T3, for those of you who don't remember, is the a lot of the rear engine vans with a sort of forward control, which very cool van anyway. By the way, Grassics BMW in Perth had one when my dad worked there, and he loved stealing it for the weekend and using it for stuff. But this is the pickup version. It's two-tone with some cladding. It's got nice alloys. It's got a front bull bar. It's got a winch. It's got a roll bar and the sort of aesthetic roll bar thing at the front of the pickup bed at the back. And I think it's really cool. 110 horsepower, 2.1 litre, 4-cylinder engines. It was a styling concept, but unfortunately it was never turned into the real thing because it was so close to the end of its life and replaced by the Surface Special T4 based on the Passat platform.
I know of an orange one that is very close to that is used by a garden maintenance company.
Is it Swiss?
Where I used to live. Left-hand drive.
So it might well be Swiss then, actually. I was going to say, is it Swiss Roadwork Orange? But yeah.
Yeah, and every time I see it, it just makes me smile because I just think, yeah, that's wonderful. Good choice. Well, talking of mad vehicles, we're going to finish off with and finally, thanks to the Autopian. And the headline is, "This ridiculous RV takes you, your friends, and your car to the track." It is mad. This is the sort of thing I would imagine Alan making with his friend to put Johnny the Yaris on to start doing track days, whilst they go over the Peak District, green lane it there rather than use the roads. I mean, it might be a bit wide because it's the American. Yeah, it's a Chevrolet Silverado 6500.
Yep.
So huge.
Mm-hmm.
And has a gross vehicle weight rating of up to 22,900 pounds. Nice.
It's 11 tons. 11 tons. Yes, it's quite cool. I mean, it is a truck, really, underneath. But I think it's cool. If you follow the link through, then there are videos to show the sort of the living area, and also, also in the article, it does point out that, quite frankly, actually, as a vehicle hauler, it is a little bit constrained, in part because the bed at the back isn't very big. But if, for example, you had an off-road Jimny or something, or even a small track car like a Johnny Yaris, then there is definitely enough space for that. But really, it's probably better for small off-roaders.
Or those little buggy things, ATVs.
Yes, exactly. In so many levels, by the way, it just would not work in the UK, not least because you can have all sorts of issues with clearance whenever you take turns and stuff with that rear overhang. And also axle weighting and all sorts of fun stuff like that. But hey, it looks cool! So go take a look.
That somebody's got a series of needs and wants to make this happen is one. And the capability.
They haven't bought it off the shelf. Yeah.
And the capability as well. Yes,
and it looks really nicely finished.
Yeah.
It's nicely done as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, before we finish up, One quick parish note. You'll notice 600. Once again, we've got to 600 and not done anything wonderfully special because we're us, other than actually both, recording it together. We've been collecting up a whole bunch of special editions, and so we're going to be releasing them over the next few weeks as well. So there's going to be a couple of shows a week, really, for the next little while. Starting this Friday, I might as well commit myself to it, even though I haven't finished the edit yet, of me visiting Porsche in Atlanta, which was, I took a hard morning out from my holidays to visit Porsche and find out.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and it was fascinating chatting to you about it, because the Radio Le Mans or IMSA Radio team did exactly the same thing a couple of weeks ago for the Road Atlanta.
I know. That's different. Yeah.
But for the Road Atlanta race, but they did meet up and have do a thing at the Porsche. But I don't think they did everything you did.
Okay.
It's different because it's us anyway. So,
yes.
But I was just like, oh, right, that's cool. It's cool they're going there as well.
I wish I'd released it when I did it in July. I wish I released it before October, yeah.
But I'm also working in the background on some couple of series which have had to take a bit of a backseat because of life and things that have been impeding that. But hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be able to start ramping that up again. And thanks to everybody who got in touch when I discussed this a few weeks ago, having a little bit of a wobble. Your kicks up posterior have done the world of good, and thank you very much for your kind messages.
Yeah, and all of you, whenever we actually took the week off the other week because Andrew was dealing with family stuff and I was dealing with being on a flight, and everybody checking that we were okay. Really appreciated. Thank you. Yes, we are. It just wasn't possible to either of us to get the actual time that week, and normally one or the other of us can fill in and sticky plaster something together, but that week it just wasn't going to happen, and we saw that it just wasn't going to happen, so we didn't even try.
Yes,
for the benefit of us, to the benefit of both our sanities, I think.
Yes,
a little bit,
or not making it worse anyway.
Yeah. That's us for the week, I think.
No, it's us for this show, not for the week. You just told everybody we're releasing special edition.
Nobody likes a smarty pants. Yes. So that's us for this show, I think. Don't forget that between now and the next time, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon. Please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Cracked Windscreen on Mastodon, and I'm tentatively dipping my toe into the blue sky world. But also, I am on LinkedIn, and sorry for the listeners that causes a nervous tick to.
And presenters.
But I am on LinkedIn under my own name. And Alan, if people wish to try and get ahead of the game and get some secrets out of you of the special edition, what's the best way for them to do that person?
I dropped one not that long ago, to be perfectly honest. But yes, with me, it's best to use Blue Sky at the minute. It's become the one that I sort of click on first when I pick up my phone, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's BRADLEY. As I said earlier, we'll be back soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.